October 29th. We're getting close to October. So get comfortable. You know, if you'd rather sit up on a blanket, do. If you feel better on the floor, just stretch your legs out or cross your legs, whatever works, right? So that you feel good in your hips. Doesn't matter how you sit. But just get your awareness now coming onto your breath. Let your eyes gently close and lengthen up through the top of your head. Feel your shoulders really releasing down away from your ears. And then just breathe. Let your breath come in and go out, and don't try to control your breath at first. Watch where your breath goes. Be aware of what part of your body moves as you breathe in and out. Start to bring your breath into your belly so that you feel your belly expand a little bit as you inhale. And if you're comfortable, to come towards those three-part breaths, inhaling into the belly, into your ribs, and then all the way up into your chest. Next exhale, let your head come forward. Let the chin come down towards your chest, only as far as feels good for you. Just releasing through your neck there. Feeling it maybe up into your upper back, maybe even down lower. And then rise your head on back up to center. And let's tilt our head to the right ear towards your right shoulder. Let your left hand come out away from you a little bit. Flex your hand, so that you come into finding maybe a little bit more through the side of the neck there. And then we'll come on back up, and all we're going to do is go in the other direction. So tilting the head to the left, bringing your right arm out a little ways, flexing your hand, letting yourself release there through that right side of your neck. Good, and then let's just release back up to center, hands on out beside us. Let's inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And let our exhale bring our hands down together to be in front of our chests. And then we'll reverse. Inhale the hands right up through the midline. And on the exhale, open our arms on back out and down. And now let's reach our arms back. Make a big circle going back first with your arms, and then out and up overhead, and bring the arms on forward and down. And then we'll reverse. We'll inhale the arms forward and up and back, and again, as far back behind you as you can, coming on down. Good. And then from here, let's just ease our way forward and back a little bit with our breath. So letting your exhales bring you forward, and your inhales bring you back up. And take your time. Let yourself just feel that easy, gentle movement with the breath. You can go farther forward if you want to. That is totally up to you. Let yourself keep that length of your spine, though. Just enjoy allowing the breath to start to move the body, right? Good. And then finish off the one you're on. Come on back to sitting nice and tall. Release your arms out beside you. Take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, let's twist to our left. Bring yourself around into twist. That right hand can be on your left knee, or it can be more at the midline. Let your back arm go to where it's comfortable. Fingertips lightly touching the ground, or you can just let your arm drape down over the back of your chair. So one more inhale. Let your exhale bring you back through center and all the way around into the other direction. Letting yourself from here lengthen up. See if you can feel your feet gently into the ground. One more inhale. And let your exhale draw you back on around into center. And from here, shake out a little bit. If you're cross-legged on the floor, switch to cross your legs. You can stretch them out if you need to before you come to the other side. And get yourself comfortable in the way you're sitting again. And then let's do that forward and back movement with the breath. So letting your exhales bring you forward and your inhales bring you back up. Again, it might be 2 inches. It might be that you like to move a little bit deeper into your forward bend. Keeping the back nice and long. Keeping the back of your head in line with your spine. Good. The next time you come forward, see if you can let yourself stay there. So if you're on the floor, you can put your hands there to give you support. You can walk further out if you want and fold over your legs. Same thing in your chair. If you want to separate your feet wider, let yourself come down farther, even hands down towards the floor if you choose to, or onto your ankles, right? Or maybe you feel better to keep your elbows above your knees. So just be mindful of your back. If you can let your head hang, do. So that you feel the weight of your head. Let go through your face. Let your jaw relax. Good. One more breath. And then we'll easily make our way on back up. And let your arms come on out beside you. Get your feet comfortable again, and we'll inhale both arms all the way out. Now, once the arms are up into a wide V, let them stay there. Turn your pinkies towards each other a little bit. And then from there, lower your left arm down and bend your right elbow and let your right hand come behind your head for a second. Let yourself just release into your tricep. And then stretch the arm long again, and let's come over into a little bit of a side stretch. Hand can be on the floor here to give you support, the left hand, or you can hold on to your chair or let the arm hang. And then we'll rise back up. We're going to lower the right arm down, rise the left arm up, and at first just bend your left elbow, and again, see if you can, you might have to adjust. Your elbow might have to come out or forward. It might feel good to let your hand come further down your back, let yourself find a little more. That really depends on you. And then we'll extend that left arm up long. And again, we're going to come over into a bit of a side stretch. Use your hand if you need there on the floor. Let yourself release into the breath on that side of the body. Nice. And then we'll come on back up, lower our arm one down. And then just softly bring your hands to meet in front of your chest, in front of your heart, and really spread your fingers out. Let yourself then start to press the fingers in towards each other and your palms a little bit. So you're a little more active. You feel your arms a little more, your biceps a little more. Try to keep really nice and open across your chest. And now press down into your feet. It's like a seated mountain. So whatever part of your feet are touching the floor, whether it's the outside edges of your feet or your feet are flat on the floor or your heels are in the ground, feel the floor and then lengthen up through the top of your head. And then we'll release to unfold our arms on down beside us. We're going to come on around towards our hands and knees. So if you do not want to be on your hands, use a blanket or come onto your fists. And if you don't want to be on your knees, be up higher so that you're not down on the floor on your knees. Use a blanket on your knees too if that feels better. Remember, you can get out of your hands by coming to your forearms if you want to work through your cat-cow like that. Or you can come on to fists if that takes the wrist crease out, if that feels okay. Or you can be flat on your hands so that you find what works for you, what's comfortable. And then just start to flow through the spine. And really imagine that you're flowing through, right? That it's very easy. Just feeling that tailbone be the first thing that moves so that you can just proceed upward through the spine, either into your cat or your cow. And if you need to not go so deeply, don't go so deeply. If you need to let yourself go a little bit less into the poses, imagine you're warming up all those muscles alongside of your spine, and it feels really totally natural. Finish off the one you're on. And come back to a more neutral spine here. Let's come on into bringing our left foot forward and our right foot back to come into a lunge. And you know you can use any height you want for your hands. You can hold on to the chair, the edge of the chair seat, or put your hands flat on the chair seat, or use your blocks. Take your time. Remember, you want to be like you're on narrow railroad tracks. Sometimes we start to get our feet into line, which kind of throws our hips a little bit cockeyed. So just make sure you can look back, see your right foot, see the heel reaching directly behind your foot there. And then we're going to switch to the other side. So however you need to do that, again, you know that left foot steps out a little to the side, so you've got that railroad track kind of feel that you're standing on. And then glance at your left heel if you have any doubt about whether it's reaching directly behind your foot. And of course, be mindful of your front knee there. Make sure it's not going out beyond your ankle. Feel your shoulders draw down away from your ears. Start to feel your head coming into line with your spine, so the back of the head kind of lines up with the spine. And then we're going to switch legs again. So once you get that right foot back this time, I know a lot of you like to lift up a little bit towards bringing your left hand onto your thigh, or both hands up if you want, or keep your hands down, right? It's not necessary to lift a hand up. If it feels good, you can. Good. And we are going to switch legs again. So coming to that other side. And again, getting yourself again aligned with that front knee. And if you want to lift up hand or hands, you can, or you don't need to. Good. And then we're going to bring our hands down so we can step forward. And come on into standing forward bend. Now be really mindful of your feet. And walk a little bit. Bend one knee at a time, and let your heel lift up off the floor of that knee you're bending. So you can walk through, you get up onto the balls of the feet, and then one heel comes down. You get back up to the balls of your feet, and the other heel comes down. So you're actually moving through the feet quite a bit here. You can have support underneath your hands. Good. And then finish off, bring your heels down, let your knees soften a little bit, and you decide what kind of support you need in your standing forward bend. So if you get somewhere and you're like, this is not so good, then try some support of any kind. Elbows above the knees, hands or forearms on the chair, or letting yourself use your blocks under your hands sometimes feels good. So just nice full breaths. Let the pose do the work for you, really, because when your torso comes forward, no matter how far forward you are, you're opening up the backs of your legs. Whether the knees are bent or not. You really just make sure you're not locking, jamming back into your knees. Well, one more breath. And then we'll bend both our knees. We're going to bring our hands up to our hips and rise on up to standing, and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And let our exhale bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. So go ahead and look at your hands for a second. Look down. Yeah, actually, see if you can look all the way down to your feet. And if you need to adjust your feet a little bit, because you see that one of them is turned a little funny, you can get yourself adjusted there. And then bring your focus back to your hands, which then your feet disappear, right? So let yourself come on to focusing on your hands. And then when you inhale the next time, float your head up and think about that sense of really finding length in the back of your throat. So that instead of the chin lifting up too high or being down too low, there's this length in the back of the throat, crown of the head reaching up, tailbone dropping down towards between your heels, but your belly is still a little engaged. So once you get aligned with the pelvis, just let the body, it really wants to get aligned. Hips over ankles, shoulders over hips. Releasing to let our arms come on down beside us. We'll inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And on the exhale, bend our knees a little as we come forward from our hips into our standing forward bend. On your next inhale, find that nice long back if you can. So your hands can be up as high as you want. They can be up on your legs, up on the chair, on blocks. And we'll step the right foot back and come into lunge here. Pull your shoulders down. Let yourself enjoy. Feel that length through the whole body here. And we'll make our way into a downward facing dog pose. Now, how you do your down dog, you all know this. It's very much a personal thing. So hands can be on the blocks. Hands can be on the floor or the chair. Let yourself reach back through your sitting bones and enjoy the length through the spine. We're all at different places, so it doesn't matter. You just want to find the length for your own self. And we're going to come on towards a plank. Whether you do a full kind of push-up pose or not is really up to you. You can come out to that full plank, or you can come down to your forearms, or you can put your knees down and do a half plank. And you can bend your elbows if you like. If you like to do little push-ups, you're more than welcome to do that. Letting yourself feel the elbows coming in a little bit towards your ribs. And then we'll make our way back into downward facing dog pose. So ease your way back. If you need to walk, go ahead and bend a knee at a time in your dog like we did in our forward bends, so that you come into a little bit more in the backs of one leg at a time and coming through the feet too. Good. And then from here, we are going to bring our right foot back forward to lunge. So if you need to put your left knee down, especially if you're on the floor, you can put a knee or knees down to get back into your lunge. And then we'll come back into standing forward bend. Feet, hips distance apart and parallel. And again, just be mindful of you, right? I mean, some of you, I know, it feels just great to hold your own elbows and let yourself release that way. It's so not, for everybody. Everybody is different. Find where you're comfortable to be. And let yourself watch your breaths now. In and out. See if you can feel the fullness of the inhales and the exhales. Good. And then we're going to release our hands back up to our hips, bend our knees, and rise up to standing. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. And let our exhale bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. Let's unfold our arms, and now let's inhale the right arm all the way out and up overhead, like we did before, and bend your elbow again, like we did before. Now, some of you might want to bring your left hand arm up and over the top and put your left hand on your right elbow. If that's too much, don't do it, right? I mean, if you need to, you can just let your hand come to the front of your upper arm, if that's better, rather than up and over the top, right? So one more breath wherever you are there. Now, be aware of your pelvis. Make sure you're not tucking up under or letting your belly hang out. Good. And then release. And from there, let the left arm come down and around behind you. Maybe just rest your hand on your low back there. Some of you might want to come a little more up with that hand towards your right hand. So you think about bringing your hands closer together on your back. Not necessary to do that. One more breath. And then unfold both your arms on down behind you. Clasp your hands together here. Let yourself bow your head forward. Release your neck a little bit. And then rise on back up with your gaze forward. Release your hands and inhale the left arm all the way out and up. And bend your elbow here. Let yourself again decide here, do you want to bring this arm up and over, right hand to the elbow or not? Remember, you can just put the hand in front of the upper arm. Let yourself be where you can. And then release. Let the right arm come on down and let it come behind you. And you may just want to rest your hand back on your low back. Don't do anything that feels really uncomfortable for that right shoulder, You can work towards this, bringing the hands towards each other if you choose. Remember to keep your gaze forward. Try not to do this, because once you do this, is what happens to once you look down, it starts that rounding, that round hump in the upper back there. Good, and then release, let your arms come on down beside you. We're going to inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead, And on the exhale, bend your knees as you come forward from your hips into your standing forward bend. Let your next inhale find that flat back for you. Find that length here if you can. And we'll step the left foot back and come into lunge. Draw your shoulders down. Really start to feel your whole body here. Coming into this second sun salutation. And we'll come into downward facing dog pose. So remember, this gets every part of your body warmed up and moving. So, if you need to move in your dog, if you need to walk or bend both your knees, feel those elbows softly hugging towards each other. Feel your shoulders, because we've really gotten into them. And then we'll come on out towards a plank. And again, it is totally optional how you do that. Come to the knees down for a half plank if you'd rather. And you can let yourself come into forearms. You can bend your elbows to little push-ups if you want. And then we'll come on back again into downward facing dog pose. And this time we will bring our left foot forward to find that lunge. However you need to do that. Good. And then we'll come on back into standing forward bend. Right to your breath. So just think there's nothing more important than just watching your breath coming in and going out through your nose. See if you can let your inhales and exhales even out a little bit in length. So if you feel like you're favoring either your inhales or your exhales, see if you can instead just feel like they're equally important so that they become a little more even in length. And from here, we will let our hands come up to our hips and rise on up to standing and inhale our arms out and up overhead. And let our exhale bring our hands down together in front of our heart. Enjoy your mountain pose for a breath. If you need to shift around a little bit to get really evened out, do. And then just bring your gaze, whether your eyes are opened or closed, on out as though you're looking at the horizon. Feel that ease of simply standing. It's strong, it's quiet, and it's in a way effortless. Once you get aligned, the body can just stay there for a very long time. Feeling very balanced. And we're going to unfold our arms right on down, clasp our hands behind us here now. Take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, bend your knees and come forward. And you can stop wherever you want to go along the way. You can stop up higher than parallel to the floor. You can go more parallel to the floor. Or if you want, you can fold over your legs and maybe even bring your arms off your back. And that is totally, up to you and your shoulders. Be where you can. And then we're going to release our arms on down. Let your next inhale help you find that long, flat back again. And we are going to put our hands down to walk into down dog from here. So, whether you want to use your blocks for your hands or your chair or the floor, when you walk into your dog, take your time. And then we'll come on out to plank. And back bends are totally optional here. You don't have to do a back bend. You can stay in your plank like we did. You can do push-ups. You can come onto your forearms and do a sphinx on the floor or a little cobra if you want. And then we'll make our way back into downward facing dog pose. So if you need to walk a little bit, do wag your tail if you want to, right? Sometimes just letting your dog feel like a very natural pose instead of forcing your way into it is a lot more fun. And then we'll come on back out towards that plank. And again, it is totally optional what you do from here. Stay in your plank if you want. Move into a back bend if you choose to. Just be really mindful. Let yourself enjoy. And then we'll come on back into downward facing dog. Good. And this time, let's let our right foot come forward to come into lunge. And you can put your left knee down to get there. We'll step back into standing forward bend. Feet hips distance apart and parallel. Be with your breath. Let go through your face. And remember remember, if you feel like your jaw just doesn't want to cooperate, to not be kind of tight, sometimes it helps just to keep your lips softly together and let your teeth just separate a little bit. One more nice full deep breath. And then we'll let our hands come up to our hips as we press into our feet equally. We'll rise up and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, as our hands come down, think about the top of your head getting higher and higher up. So there's all that space in your spine, right? And once you get aligned, if you feel like you're kind of a little bit cockeyed somewhere, adjust your feet if you need. Just let yourself feel balanced there. Get your pelvis aligned so you don't feel like you're tucking your tailbone up under you and you don't feel like you're, sway back really, right? There's that curve in your back. Everybody has it, different degrees. And then just enjoy. Feel like you're breathing in and out. Imagine, if you could actually, breathe in and out through every pore of your skin, all at one time. When you inhale, be like you're breathing in and out through your skin, which would be pretty amazing. And then we'll unfold our arms on down beside us and shake out, move around a little bit if you need to. I'm going to flip my chair around. If you're using one, we do need our blocks handy in case we want them. And we're going to step our right foot back and come into warrior two. We were talking about this earlier in class. The distance you have between your feet in warrior two, it will benefit you no matter if they're closer together or farther apart. So when you go into a long stance, then it's like your focus becomes more on your legs and your hips. Kind of naturally, it happens, right? If you're in a shorter stance, you can't bend this knee as far, right? You have yourself really more aware of the core of your body. So there's benefits to any distance that you bring your feet in this pose. But you really want to be mindful of your knee. You really want that left foot parallel to the long edge of your mat, and you don't want the knee to do that because that's a lot of pressure into our knees. And then from there, we're going to float our arms on up and out, reaching out through the fingertips. Let your hands come higher, so that maybe they're kind of like a wide open V, but the palms are still down. And let your shoulders really melt down, away from your ears. And then lower the hands on back down, straight out from your shoulders. Let your left palm turn up. And let's inhale the left arm up and come on into that reverse warrior, breathing into the left side. And on the exhale, we'll come into side angle. So you can either put your hand on your chair, lean your torso out over your left leg here, or you can put your hand on your thigh or your forearm on your thigh. You can add the right arm up into line with the right side of the body if your shoulder lets you, or you can keep your hand down on your hip. Good. Really let yourself enjoy feeling that length through both sides of your body, really. We're going to come on back into warrior two. Press those feet gently away from each other as you come. Good. And then bring your hands on down. We're going to turn towards the front of the mat and come down into a lunge. So you can bring your hands down to whatever surface you want to use. The chair, the blocks, the floor if you want, right? Really get into that lunge there. And we'll add a twist. Left hand onto the left hip, rolling that shoulder up. You can always put your hand there. Check and make sure you're not dropping to really misalign your hips here. Try to stay really level right there in your hips. And then you can reach your arm up if you want. Not necessary to do the arm part. Think about lengthening out through the top of your head. Reach back to that inner heel. And then come on back down with your hand. And we're going to step forward, get our feet right under us. And we'll bend our knees, press into our feet, and rise on up. Inhaling our arms out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. And let's release our arms. Float your arms up into a T position. And then just bring your left arm on top of your right. Give a little hug or come in towards your eagle wrap if you want with your arms. So you can stay hugging. You can send the backs of your hands towards each other. You can bring your right hand fingers into your left palm if you want to. Let your shoulders feel really released. And now bend your knees a little bit. Shift your hips back a little bit. You can go as deeply as you want into this. You can shift lower, back more weight to your heels if you want for a little chair pose. Or you can stay up higher. You're still really working your thighs, your hips. Come on back up to standing. Release those arms on down beside you. And then float the arms up into that T position again. And we're going to bring the right arm on top of the left. So give that hug for a second. If you kind of need to move around a little bit with your head, do it. Especially if you feel any kind of tension. And of course you can release towards your eagle or knot wrap. You can send the backs of the hands closer together. You can put your left fingers on your right palm. And if you like that final little twist of the thumbs to the midline, that increases it a little more, but it's not for everybody. Shift back with your hips a little, bend your knees. Doesn't have to be low to really feel it, right? I mean, you can go lower if you want, but if you get to the point of like your knees saying, no, I do not need to go lower, don't go lower. Take your time, come on back up, good. And then from here, we'll release our arms on down, this hold us. And shake your arms out a little bit, good. And we're gonna come into Warrior Two on the other side, so I'm gonna take my chair around, but we'll step our left foot back. So remember, whether you step back 18 inches, 2 feet, 3 feet, think about your heels being in a line. And now your right foot is gonna come forward. Yeah, so Kathy, bring your chair around to the other, there you go. That way you can face and be on the same leg. There you go. So line up that right knee over the center of your foot. And again, take your time. So be aware when you're just right here, like where do you feel the pose, right? You feel your hips, right? You think about, even without even thinking about it, your belly is working and so is your back. And of course your legs are. We're going to float the arms up. Again, higher than your shoulders if you can. So they're up high. But lift your shoulders for a second, and you know how that feels. And then draw them down. Let it feel really good to start to lower the arms back down so you're looking right out over the top of that right hand. Feeling very balanced. Feel that back hand reaching back, the front hand reaching forward. Feel as open as you can across your chest, your upper back. And turn the right palm up, lower your left arm down, and inhale upward into that right side of the body, breathing into the right side. Now, you know, look where it's comfortable for your neck. So if it doesn't feel good to look up, don't look up. Let yourself kind of bring your gaze forward. One more breath. And on the exhale, we'll come into that side angle. So again, you can use your hand on your chair, just letting the torso come out over that front leg. You can use your thigh. You can go down to your forearm if you want. You know that. And then you decide, do you want to add that top arm up or not? Left hand can stay down on your hip, or you can bring it on up so it's more into line with that left side of your body. So take your time. Remember, you don't want to collapse in the underside of the body. You want to be long through both sides of the body. Beautiful. We're going to come on back to Warrior Two. Pressing the feet gently away from each other gets you right back into your core. And then we'll let our hands come down. We're going to turn to face the front of the mat, bring our hands down to find lunge. So again, you can be up on the back of your chair. You may feel better to go down lower. You may not, right? Find your lunge so you reach that heel directly behind your foot. Right hand to the right hip. And as you put your hand down there on your sacrum, just make sure you're not dropping into that left long side there. And again, if you like to stretch the arm up, you can. You can reach the arm up and let the palm face away from you, right? So it reaches towards that right long side of your mat. And then we're going to release the arm on down, and we're going to step forward and get our feet right underneath us. And from here, we'll bend our knees and rise on up to standing and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. Pretend there's a chair right back there behind you and sit forward a little with the torso, back a little with your hips. So when you come into chair, you really have to think about the angle of your pelvis here, because sometimes it's tempting to do that, right? Tuck your tailbone under you. Instead, you want to reach your tailbone back. That way you still have the natural alignment of your spine here. Okay? And then press into your feet and rise on up. Good. And shake out a little bit. Walk around if you need to. Okay, we're going to come into Warrior One this time. So I'm going to keep my chair turned that way. If you don't really need it for Warrior One, because we're going to do a little pyramid. Actually, I'm going to turn mine around. Let's turn them around. It'll be easier. If you're going to use your chair, turn it around. Everybody else, get your blocks highest height forward of you in the front of your mat there. And let's come forward and get our feet underneath us so that when we step back into Warrior One, it feels really good. And we're going to do it a couple of times. So at first, as you shift and you step back for that Warrior One, and you have your shoulders square to the front of the mat, kind of see how you feel when you bend that front knee. And think, this kind of feels okay or it kind of doesn't, right? And then shift back forward and bring your foot back under you. Sounds easy enough. We're going to do it again. This time kind of think, if you were a little bit off when you step back, change it a little bit. Go shorter or longer, or go a little wider if you need to. So if you're like, I'd like to come a little farther apart with my feet. I'd like to be a little longer or shorter stance. Get yourself comfortable, and if you're still not, adjust your feet if you need to. Let yourself bring your hands to be in front of your chest, and then bow your head and look at that front knee. Make sure it's not hiding your toes, right? You should be able to see your toes. And then bring your gaze on back forward. Keep your hands together as you inhale the hands up through the midline, and on the exhale, let them come back down. Now, this doesn't mean you have to go straight armed, right? You're just letting the shoulders get a little movement here. Inhaling up with the hands and exhaling, letting them come back down. And then one more time. Inhaling, rising the hands up. And then from here, open your arms out a little bit to a wider V. Turn your pinkies towards each other. Let your gaze maybe come up a little bit. And imagine really that there's a string attached to your sternum, drawing it forward and up a little bit towards where the wall meets the ceiling. You got to really lift your belly now to protect your back. One more breath. And then we're going to release our arms down. We're going to straighten the front leg out. Now we're going to come into pyramid. We want our hips to be fairly square here so that when we start to come forward, and you've got stuff there in front of you where you can put your hands. Maybe down to the chair seat. Maybe you want to go down to the blocks. That's up to you. Once you get your hands down, you can decide if you want to adjust your stance again. So maybe you want to get a little bit longer or shorter. You do definitely want to still have that back heel in the ground. And you want to be able to feel that sense of thighs lifting up towards your hips. So you're going to get in the backs of the legs big time here, as we all know. Take your time. See if you can think about your back becoming very flat, very long and flat. Enjoy. And then some of you may, from there, feel very good to just bow forward over that front leg. Either by just bending your elbows or bringing your hands lower. Whatever works. If that feels good, you can come forward over your leg. And then we're going to come back up enough so that we can bend the front knee. And we're going to step forward and get our feet right underneath us. So you'll probably have to adjust. Right? You want your hands now on your blocks or your chair seat, right under your shoulders, and your feet a little closer together than you usually have them for mountain. Right? From there, bend both your knees. And then we're just going to lift our right foot up off the floor. Knees are side by side. You're standing on your left foot now, right? And let yourself take your time here to extend into a warrior three. Toes are facing down towards the ground. And then bend both your knees. Bring that right knee beside your left knee again. Now, if your hands are not quite in the right place, adjust. So that when you extend out again, it feels okay. You know, you feel like you have your hands in a good place. Some of you might want to lift your left hand up off the block or chair to your chest. You might not. I mean, if you feel like you want to put your hand up on your low back too, you can kind of check the levelness of your hips. Keeping the pinky toe of that right foot facing down. Good. And then bring your hand back down, bend both your knees again. And one more time here, we're going to stretch it long, not for very long. And then we're going to open the hip a little bit, like you're coming into half moon. Drawing the toes a little away from the floor as you just open your hip up a little. And then release, come on back down. Widen your feet on your mat. Let them come to the outside edges of your mat. And then shift back, elbows above your knees to let your hips release there. Some of you might even want to squat down. If you want to squat all the way down, go for it. So if a squat from there sounds like heaven, right, to release your hips and your back, you can let yourself come down. Just be mindful, let it feel good. And now to come back up, you might want to use your hands on your thighs and just let yourself easily come back up. Walk around a little bit. Kind of, if you can, think about almost like you're slapping your bottom with your heel one at a time. Not if it hurts your knees. Good. Well, we're going to do all this on the other side. So, coming on into the front of your mat, remember, have your blocks handy or turn your chair with the seat around. And we're going to step right away from here. Remember, we're going to do it more than once. So, get yourself onto your right foot, step your left foot back, or your one, kind of decide, well, is that a good length for me? Does that feel good? Or is that like totally not what I want to be doing, right? And then shift forward again. Actually, just that movement. That's a lot of work right there. So stepping back like this into the pose and being really aware of what you're doing, it's different. So see if you can again, step that left foot back. And if you're like, well, I really want to be longer, go ahead and extend. If you feel like you want to be wider, let your feet be a little wider apart for balance, right? And then once your hands come to your heart, bow your head and look at your knee. Again, make sure you're not covering your toes. And you make sure also that knee is not headed in towards your inside of your foot. You really want to try to get it right over the middle of your foot. And then bring your gaze on back forward. And we're going to inhale our hands right up through the midline. And on the exhale, let them come back down together in front of your heart. So with your breath, let those arms just easily move up and down. Think about your inhales and exhales being equal in length. Next time you come up, stay there. Separate your hands a little bit. Turn your pinkies inward towards each other. If you can bring your gaze up again. Try to imagine that string on your sternum, drawing your sternum forward towards where the wall meets the ceiling. Feeling equal there between your feet, all the way up into your hips. We're going to release our arms on down from here, straighten that front knee out. Now, as you start to come on forward with the hands coming down, maybe you want to use your chair seat, maybe you want to use your blocks. Adjust your stance if you need to. When you get your hands down there, if you can't keep the back heel down, make sure you can. And if you need to get a little wider or less wide, do. But again, come into really trying to feel that flat back, right? So if you feel like you're rounded up into the middle or the upper back, let that sink down. And in fact, just imagine for a second that your heart wants to melt down towards the ground a little bit. Even if you have a flat back, that's a nice release for the upper back. Feel your thighs just gently lifting up. So it's like you're protecting your knees by creating space in your knees. And then, of course, if you like to fold or bow forward over that front leg, you can. You can go a little bit lower on the chair or the blocks. You can fold forward over the leg even if it feels good to you. Good. Good. So one more breath here. And now you're going to come up enough so that you can bend that front knee and easily step forward to get your feet underneath you. And again, you may want your feet a little closer together. You'll know once you bend your knees and you lift that left foot up, you'll go, oh, this does not feel good. That's not the right place. You can adjust. And then when you're ready, inhale back into that long leg back there, toes facing down into your warrior three. Good. And then bend both knees again, let them come side by side. So you're taking a little bit of a break, really. And then again, stretch back into that warrior three. And if you want to bring your right hand up off the chair or the block to your heart or to your low back or stretch it forward, you know, you're welcome to. You can keep the hand down, you know, if you need to. Keep it down, too. Good. And we're going to bend the knees again. Bring them side by side. And now we're going to stretch back one more time into that nice warrior three. And now if you can, think of drawing your toes open away from the floor. It's like you're stacking your left hip a little bit on top of your right, towards a half moon leg there. And then turn the toes back down so the hips come level again, and then put your foot back down. Separate your feet again, and release your hips however you need. So if you need to come down to a squat, do. If you want to put your elbows above your knees, take your time. Remember, if your knees and hips really like to come down, you're more than welcome to. You okay back there?
There's nothing to like about that.
All right. And take your time. We're going to come down onto our bellies on the floor from here. So if you have a chair, you can just kind of move it off to the side. It's fine. And we'll come on down onto our bellies on the floor. And let yourself rest with your forehead, if you can, on your hands, like stack your hands up to make a little pillow. Rest your head. Of course, if that's not comfortable, don't do it. I mean, if you need something else underneath your head, by all means do. So just breathe into your low back. You might even kind of like let your hips shift a little bit side to side if you want to. Let yourself breathe. Good. And now from here, let's come on up into a little Sphinx Pose. So whether you want to bring your elbows under your shoulders or not, or maybe you want to be lower with your body and bring your elbows down more towards your waist, you have to be comfortable, you know, in this back bend. It is still opening through the front of the body, using your back body here. Let it feel good. One more breath. Good, and then we're going to come on down, and we're going to stretch our left arm overhead and roll onto our left side. So now, when you do this, you want to be like you're standing in mountain pose, right? And if your left shoulder is screaming at you and you don't want to lay with your arm like this, don't do it. Get a block or a blanket, put it under your head. You can lower the arm down to where it feels okay for your shoulder, okay? But then from here, flex both your feet and let your top right foot get a little bit away from your bottom left foot so that it's like you're standing in a mountain with your feet a little apart. Press into the outside edge of your left pinky toe down there on the floor. That'll really help your core engage. And if you want to put your right hand up on your right hip, you can. And you can just stay there for a second. Feel your core body working. If you need to leave your hand on the floor, go right ahead. All right? Okay, now from here, think about opening up into like you're doing tree pose on your side. So you're bringing your right foot into the inside of your left leg, and the knee kind of comes up towards the ceiling as much as you can. And now, it's up to you. If you want to keep your hand down on the floor, do. Sometimes people like to stretch their arms up overhead and clasp their hands up there overhead. If that feels good, you can, because that lengthens through the sides of the body even more. Good. And now this is totally optional. If your right hand can come to your right knee and the knee is being drawn towards your shoulder, you can let your hip release to the side that way. If that doesn't work, don't do it. Some of you might even want to extend up into that right leg being long, where you rotate your heel forward and find that outward hip rotation there. You don't have to do that part. Good, and then bend the knee back again if that leg was long, and go ahead and stretch both legs out long. And it's going to feel pretty good to roll back onto your belly. Let yourself come onto your belly, and then come onto your forearms and come into a little half forearm plank, right? So you're up on the flesh above your knees, and you can pull yourself towards the front of your mat so you come even more kind of up onto that flesh above the knees. Flex your feet. Feel your belly and your low back and your hips engaging. One more breath. And then we're going to release down, and we're going to roll to our right side this time. So stretching that right arm out and up overhead. And then, again, if that's not comfortable, take the arm down. Do what you have to do. If you need to adjust, do. Flex both your feet and get yourself lined up there. I mean, if you feel like you have to look down at your feet to make sure they're not behind you or too far in front of you, do. And then as you lift that left leg a little bit up off the bottom leg, press into the outside edge of your pinky toe mound. There you are, pretty stable. Maybe you want your hand to come to your hip, maybe you don't. You can keep the hand on the floor, but you can still feel your belly, your low back working there. And then again, if you can come into like a tree, whether you put that left foot on the inside of your calf with the knee reaching up a little bit now towards the ceiling, or maybe up onto your inner thigh, right? It's up to you. Letting your hip open up. If you like to reach your arms overhead, you can. You don't need to. You can keep your hand on the floor. Just enjoy letting that hip open there. And then, of course, it's adding on to that hip release is up to you. Left hand can draw the left knee up a little bit more towards your shoulder so your foot's off of your leg. And if you want to extend the leg long, you can, right? You can hold anywhere behind the thigh. You can hold to the front or the back of the leg, really. You can reach for your foot if you want. Rotating that heel forward. And the hard part is not rolling back in this. You extend that leg up to not like roll back onto your back. But obviously, even if you rolled, you don't have far to go. It wouldn't be bad. Go ahead and bend that knee again. Bring the foot on back down so that now you're straight again, standing. And we're going to roll back to our bellies again. Right? And come on back again onto your forearms, lifting up into either a half or maybe you want to do a full forearm plank now. So you can lift your knees up if you choose to, or you can stay again with the knees bent. Let yourself find some core strength there. Pressing into the forearms, elbows hugging towards each other. Good. And then we're going to release and let your arms come down alongside your body as you lower your head down. Turn your palms down towards the ground so your shoulders automatically draw away from the floor. And on your next inhale, float everything you can up, right? So you're reaching into Lopus Pose. Thinking of your fingertips and your toes reaching back towards the foot of your mat. Feeling that ease of your back body just floating you up. Good. One more breath. And then we're going to come on back down and we're going to shift back towards pose of a child from here. So big toes together, knees as far apart as you want in child's pose. Hips up if you need. If your knees are not letting you go back further with your hips, don't worry about it. Just keep your bottom up and let yourself stay there. Or you can shift your way back, letting yourself come into child's pose, either resting your head on your hands or a block. Or if you like your arms soft and you want to just release there with your head to the floor. And some people like to turn their head sideways in child's pose. So if you do, you can let your head turn to one side. Just turn it the other way in a couple breaths so you even your neck out there. Breathe into your low back. Good. One more breath. Now be really mindful when you come up around to sitting. So take your time, however you need to come up, right? If you need to kind of crawl to your hands and knees and then swing around, we're going to bring our legs on around in front of us. Good. And actually, let's turn you guys sideways. So you guys turn sideways on your mat to face that wall, and then separate your feet wider. So I want your heels to be on your mat. And we're coming into a little wide angle here. You can grab, oh, I forgot to get my blanket. You can grab a blanket and put it underneath you to sit on, especially if sitting like this is like less than ideal. Getting your hips up higher can help, right? Also kind of sometimes even grabbing blocks and putting them underneath your knees like that so that it's not quite so stressful, right? Especially if you're tight in your back and your back through your legs and in your low back. So be easy. Let yourself sit up as tall as you can. And then just come a little tiny bit forward. And when you do come forward with your body, you can put your hands anywhere you want. On your legs, on the floor, in front of you. Grab a block if you want. But think about your knees and toes continuing to face up towards the ceiling. So you're not rolling either backwards with your feet or forwards. All right? And you're coming forward from your low back. It's like your whole back comes forward. Good. And you'll probably feel your inner thighs. Probably feel your hips, the outside of your hips too, your low back maybe. Good. So come on back up. And now we're just going to twist towards our left leg. So you're twisting out over towards that left leg a little bit. And then bring one hand on either side of the leg and kind of spider walk your way down with your fingers. Now, maybe that's going to be like, to your knee, right? Maybe you want to keep going. You want to get closer down towards your ankle or your foot. Let yourself release over that leg if you can. And then we're going to slowly walk back up. You can take your time, get your hands to help you, and then come on back into center. And we're going to twist the other way. Twisting over towards the right. And now, as you start this, hand on either side of the leg and the creeping down with your fingers, just be mindful. Try not to let that left foot roll down, okay? Try to keep the toes and the knee facing up. And you just extend out. So you get a little deeper into the hamstring of that right leg. Good. And now come on, walk your hands back up. Come back into center, and now let's do a little side work. Left hand is going to come to your left leg, and it's going to slide down the top of your leg. As far as you want to go, you can go to your foot if you want. Let that right hand come to your right hip and draw your shoulder up. And there is a side stretch, even if you're up high, right? Now, if you want a little more, you can put your hand up. Like I like to put my hand on my rib cage, actually, and feel the ribs there. And then, of course, you can add the arm. You can put your hand at the back of your head, which increases the side stretch, or you can stretch the right arm long. Let it come down closer to your head. Good. We're going to slowly come on back up. You've got to use your belly to do that, actually. Let your right hand come to the top of your right leg and slide it down. And again, as you kind of draw your left shoulder up and your hands there on your hip, you may decide, I want to feel how my ribs feel, because they're just kind of incredible what they do and how they're built, right? And then, of course, if you want to bring your arm up to hand to the back of your head, you can. Or let your arm be long if that feels good. Good. And now we're going to slowly, again, use your belly to come on back up. And let your hands come behind you. And if you can, actually lean back onto flat hands. If that bothers your wrist, you can just come onto like fingertips or kind of onto the knuckles more. But let yourself draw your chest forward and draw your shoulders back, open through the front of the body here. And where you look is up to you. If your neck bothers you, just look forward. You're still opening across your chest, right? And some people it feels very good to look up a little bit, or even to let the head come back. That's up to you. And then release to come on back up to sitting. And you might want to use your hands to help you bring your legs on together. And we're going to turn around so we can come down onto our backs on the floor from here. So let yourself release. Come on down onto your back. Let your feet be on the floor here for a second. And then bring your feet in to where they're kind of like you are in mountain pose. And extend your left leg down long on the floor. Flex through your foot. Right? And from there, you're going to bring your right knee in towards your chest. And you can either hold behind your thigh or on your shin. Flex through both your feet. Feel the right leg gently coming into your hands. And then switch to hold behind your thigh and just extend the foot up. And you can keep your knee bent and kind of pull the thigh in towards your outer rib cage a little bit. Or some of you might really want to stretch the leg up because it feels good longer. That's up to you. Find where it feels good to you. Good. And then bend the knee again and put the right foot back down on the floor. And from here, we'll bring our left knee all the way in towards the chest. And again, holding wherever you want, behind your thigh or right there below your knee. And start to slowly extend your right leg down long on the floor. Flex through both your feet now. Feel that left leg coming into your hands. So you feel how you're not collapsed into your low back on the floor. Let it feel good. Actually, let your head roll side to side a couple times. Like you're massaging the back of your head. Let it feel easy to do and like really releasing for your neck. And then finish off to look back towards the ceiling. You're back at center. And switch to hold behind your thigh if you're not already. And again, you can just lift the foot up and keep the knee bent. Let yourself kind of hug the thigh towards your outer rib cage. Or some of you might really want to extend up into a longer leg to open up through the back of the leg a little more. That's up to you. Don't force it. Let it be just a really nice release, whether it's mainly for your hip or for the back of your leg. Good. And then we'll bend that knee on back down. We're going to bring both the right knee and left knee in towards the chest. And now separate your knees. Bring your hands down either to your shins or your ankles to the inside of your legs here for Baddha Konasana. So you're thinking about the soles of the feet coming towards each other. If you like to wrap your hands around your feet, you can. If your hips don't always allow that, the build of your hips, right? So you got to find what feels releasing for you. It doesn't matter if the feet actually touch. Right? You can have your feet apart and just let yourself release your hips and your low back that way. If you're more comfortable to put your feet on the floor and then open the knees out, you can do that one. See, to me, that's actually so much more than having the feet up. But for some people, that feels lots better, right? And so that has totally to do with how you're built in your hips. So let yourself find release for your inner thighs there. Good. And then we're going to bring our knees on back in and let your feet come to the floor. Widen them a little bit towards the outside edges of your mat. And stretch your arms out beside you into a T position. And just let your knees go from one side to the other at your own pace. You can either stay on one side and just hang out in that little twist, or you might want to go with your breath. Inhale when your knees come up. Exhale when they go to one side. You can either hang out there and wait till it feels time to inhale them up, or you could just keep inhaling the knees up and exhaling them off to the side. And when you get to where you're like, okay, I need to do something else, then by all means do it. So anything that might sound good to you right now, let your body come into whatever feels like it will help you to be able to release in your Shavasana. So be mindful of really how you feel. Do you need a little bridge pose? Do you need another little twist of any kind? Another start to get lights at first. I'm almost there with those, and then I'm going to start to bring stuff. So, if you know when you lie out that your back does not feel good, with a little bit of support underneath your knee sounds good.
There's space. There's enough space to get through them.
Yes. So look for people who might want a bolster. And if I do bring a bolster and it feels really good at first, and then you're like, when you're lying there for a little bit and you're not comfortable, you know, you can roll over, take yourself off the blanket, bolster out from underneath you. So, you know, what a bolster does underneath your knees is just slightly realigns your pelvis. So I'm looking for waves. There's a wave. And also remember, you want to be comfortable in your neck. So if a blanket underneath your head helps you to release the back of your neck, I'll be happy to bring one. Just enjoy. Feel, now that you're there, feel whatever parts of your body are actually in contact with the ground. Because we have all these natural curves. So you know not every part of the back of your body is touching the floor. Just let yourself just imagine kind of melting down into the ground with the back of your body. And let yourself start to follow your breath in and out. And if there is anything that helps you to come back to your breath, whether it's counting your breaths or thinking a word or a mantra, so it can be anything that helps you to refocus back to your breath. And your breath kind of naturally is going to get a little more shallow, but when you realize you're thinking, sometimes coming back to the breath, it wants to deepen again, that's fine. See if you can just be okay with watching your breath. And give yourself time to benefit from all you just did. Just by finding those little quiet places and allowing yourself to completely and fully relax. first of feeling the ground underneath you again, supporting you. Breathing in a little deeper now, feeling those deeper breaths start to refresh you, and so that when you feel like moving again and starting with your extremities and moving on up as you will into your hands and feet, your arms and legs, just take your time and let the body just naturally move the way that feels good for you. You know, you're welcome to roll to either your right or your left side anytime. If it's good for you to be on your side, you can stay there. You can use your arm as a pillow if you don't have a blanket, and just rest comfortably for a few breaths, just to give your body an opportunity to adjust. So that when you do start to rise up and sitting, it feels good to allow yourself to get upright again. And you know, as you do start to adjust in your hips and your head starts to be up there on top again, and you lengthen up through the crown of your head again to feel the space in your spine. You can feel that ease of your breath, and you can watch your breath again now that you're up again with your head above your heart. Feeling energy coming back into the body. And on your next exhale, let your hands come gently together to meet in front of your chest, in front of your own heart. And wishing each one of you a very joyful day. Namaste.
Namaste.